Okay, hello, I'm Robert Burns, CEO of the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, and today we welcome Lisa Vezeau-Allen, NDP candidate for the Sault Ste. Marie riding for the upcoming provincial election on February 27th. Before we start the interview, I want to acknowledge and recognize that we're holding this interview on the traditional, territorial, and ancestral lands of the Ojibwe people from the Garden River and Batchewana First Nations. And to the Anishinaabe people, this sacred and spiritual place has been known since time immemorial as Bawading. We wish to honor the Anishinaabe and Métis of this part of Turtle Island as we recognize their homelands in the spirit of partnership and reconciliation. Before we begin, a few items. All candidates that are on the ballot for the February 27th election that we were able to get in touch with were invited to participate. Each candidate that joins us will be asked the same set of questions. Candidates will have up to 3 minutes to answer each question, after which time I will simply interrupt, jump in, thank them for their response, and move on to the next question. And once all the questions have been posed, each candidate will be given an opportunity for some closing remarks, given the same 3-minute time allotment. Once all the interviews have been completed, we plan on uploading each of them individually to our YouTube channel for our membership and the public to view. That being said, hello, Lisa.
Hello, Bob.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Before we begin with the questions, feel free, take a couple of minutes and let everybody know why you're running. And well, some people may not know you.
Sure. My name's Lisa Vezeau-Allen. I've worked in the charitable sector most of my life. I also had a stint as a private business owner, Bubble Pop Beauty and Bridal, which was just around the corner. I've led organizations in a director capacity. I am a very prolific grant writer. Bob and I went to high school together at the Dunn. That's another little fun fact. And I've been involved in municipal politics for 6.5 years. I have been heavily involved with the party. Previously, I was vice president of the Provincial Riding Association for the NDP, and I was co-chair of the 2011 federal campaign for Tony Martin. I have been asked previously to run for the party. It just wasn't a good time. I had young children. Now is a good time, and I think my expertise and experience on council will really translate well to the work that needs to be done at Queen's Park.
Very good. Yeah, we remind everybody that we went to school together. Okay.
You didn't know that we were the same age.
No. How do you plan to collaborate with city officials and community partners to create jobs, foster innovation, drive growth, and attract trade and investment to our wonderful city of Sault Ste. Marie?
I've already done that. I really believe in collaboration. I've worked with all levels of government in both my role at City Council, also in my role as founder and ex-board president of a social enterprise here in Sault Ste. Marie called Grocery for Good. I've worked with multi-levels of government and from a funding capacity through my almost 35-year career in the nonprofit sector. And I think in terms of innovation, growth, and attraction, it's really working with the institutions that are here, like the Economic Development Corporation, like the Community Development Corporation, the Chamber of Commerce, all of that to drive, and our tourism partners to drive innovation to the community. One thing that I thought of was, Algoma Family Services does this marathon fundraiser. It's a qualifier for the Boston Marathon. Like, we have such amazing things that are happening in our community that we can really look at to capture and drive growth, and I'm really excited to do that.
Excellent. So tell me, what is your party's platform on healthcare accessibility and quality medical services, and how will your plans specifically address the healthcare needs in Sault Ste. Marie?
The NDP party is the only party, to my knowledge. We do have a specific northern plan within our policy that's just strictly for the north. Number one, in terms of accessibility, eliminate parking fees at hospitals. That can really, and I know from working with vulnerable populations, you can't afford a cab to the hospital, you can't afford to pay for parking. How are we getting that transportation access? So the number one is eliminate parking fees at hospitals for staff, visitors, and patients. And reliable home care to let people stay at home. We have a very aging population here in Sault Ste. Marie. We're about 48% of the population is over the age of 50. So having safe monthly caregiver incentives, benefits, so that, say, Bob, you've got to stay at home and take care of your ailing mother or father, you're able to do that, and you're going to receive benefits to do that because you're not able to work. 911 should work everywhere. I know that from my northern counterparts. We do a lot of work together, Kenora, Cochrane, Timmins. 911 needs to work everywhere with a 90-10 cost sharing with municipalities and ambulatory services for that 911 service, because we know the new NG 911 was hundreds of thousands of dollars for that services. And the other thing is a family health guarantee that's in our platform. And I met with the Ontario Medical Association president, Dr. Nowak, and one specific piece of that policy is eliminating all of the paperwork, having a central northern command center for referrals and for paperwork so that doctors can doctor and not just be spending their time doing forms. So that's highlights from what we're going to do in bringing healthcare. Also, investing $4 billion over 4 years and earmarking 350 physicians just strictly for northern communities, and that's in our platform as well.
Okay, very good. Moving on, the next question, it's a long one, so bear with me. Excuse me. The Northern Chambers, which there's a number of them, but the 5 largest, Sault Ste. Marie, Sudbury, Timmins, North Bay, and Thunder Bay, along with the support of the Ontario Chamber of Commerce and municipalities and northern rural communities throughout Ontario, have called for an immediate set-aside of 3,000 spots for northern communities within the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. The proposal involves no new program spending, utilizes current staff, and right now they are currently working, but they're processing applications for the GTA predominantly. If elected, will you support this change to guarantee a portion of those spots to Northern Ontario?
100%. Sault Ste. Marie that we know today was built by immigrants. Post Second World War and First World War, we saw a huge influx of immigrants to this community. And since the Second World War, Sault Ste. Marie has predominantly stayed at about a 50% Italian heritage population. So we were built by immigrants. In 2019, Sault Ste. Marie was selected, this is a federal program, the Northern Rural Immigration Pilot. And as a councillor, I supported that. I also sat on the Committee of Inclusion of Municipalities, which is now defunct. It's a UN-sanctioned committee. But Sault Ste. Marie in 2022 exceeded its goal of 125 allocated recommendations for employment, issuing 213 recommendation letters, and which is on the next page, 137 immigrants from that program were employed in Sault Ste. Marie. We know that it works. It's great that provincially we've got the same program, and I've seen the success and would support it 100%.
Okay, great. How will you ensure small businesses have fair access to funding, particularly for growth, expansion, and purchasing commercial properties?
In terms of funding models change. I've been working in granting and funding for many, many years. When I started out Grocer for Good, I submitted an application to PARO, women's-led funder for startups, for social enterprises. I was refused. They didn't think that Grocer for Good would be sustainable. Jump forth almost 5 years and we're still around, and we have a second social enterprise. So I would be extremely experienced in all of this, what you can, what you cannot do, what is available. I currently work with stakeholders in identifying funding already. So it's really working with stakeholders like the EDC, the Chamber, CDC to identify where gaps are in funding. There are funding models out there, but you have to be able to, cross that I and dot, like there's a lot of different parameters. So I've always been an advocate for how do we make things more streamlined? How do we make it easier? Just the $1.14 million that we received federally to open the cafe, we have a team of 5 just to do the reporting. Like the reporting is very onerous. So I definitely know, especially in terms of small business, and I think I get a call at least once a week. Lisa, do you know a grant that I can apply to? So I've been doing that work consistently throughout my career, and it's what I do now. So I know what needs to happen and how we need to get there in terms of getting better funding for private enterprise and small business.
Okay, great. Next one has to deal with the current health and addiction crisis. What steps will you take to address the mental health and addiction crisis, particularly as it impacts the business community, downtown, tourism areas of our town?
Well, right now in our platform, we're going to increase funding to community mental health providers. And in October of 2024, our leader, Marit Stiles, announced Youth Universal Mental Health Care that we are pushing. So we need to have the services for our vulnerable people that are affecting business. I've also worked very closely with SOIA and Canadian Mental Health Association in supporting vulnerable people in this community. I've supported funding to the Ambassador Program, which is peer-to-peer mentorship that are doing street outreach, our community wellness bus. And I've also pushed with police services, doing the SEPTED, environmental design for safety, and supported the expansion of the downtown patrol unit. But we also need to be very acutely aware with business and how it gets affected by businesses. Our window's been broken 3 times at Grocer for Good. That's $1,000 every time. I feel it, I know it. So I understand that. So I think it's all of us working together and making sure that the supports are there for our vulnerable so that they aren't on the street and that businesses can thrive and strive. But we also need to have that in place in terms of having people on the ground to making sure that people are safe, whether that's the downtown security, which I supported the extra funding for that, whether it's the downtown ambassador program. You know, all communities are seeing this. You know, Sault Ste. Marie is not the only one. And we need to tackle the issue as to why it's happening, but also we want people to come downtown and thrive.
Okay. Next question is something that's on everyone's mind right now. How do you plan to address the ongoing tariff crisis? And will there be targeted support for industries and communities that are most affected or challenged?
The first thing is we need to work together. So the plan is to get all the premiers together, union leaders, executives, whether it's auto industry, steel industry, to look at how do we expand our export markets and how do we expand our supply chains so that we're not just reliant on the United States. Also restore Canadian content requirements for Ontario contracts. That's right in this plan, Ontario contact for Ontario contracts. And we have to work with employers. We have to work with the employers to understand how it's going to affect their workforce. We have to work with workers, but it has to be a collaborative effort of all levels of government, all the provinces and territories working together, because if we don't work together, then we're not going to have solutions for what potentially could happen with these tariffs.
Okay. Let me see, where did I leave off here?
7.
Thank you. It's been a long day.
I guess so.
With the exception of the tariffs.
Yep.
What do you identify as the 2 most critical issues facing our business community, and how does your party's platform provide solutions to these challenges?
I think as a northern community, we really need to take a look at transportation. And there is a Northern Highway Plan in the Northern Plan with the NDP. We also need to look at alternative transportation, such as rail, such as, do we increase our shipping? There's always been talk about having the deep Port of Algoma, thank you. That, I think, when you take a look at what we have as a smaller municipality in Northern Ontario, transportation is huge. Increasing our access to air as well. Like right now, we have 2 flights a day, and that is a difficulty. So it's really taking a look at transportation can be a barrier for us doing business. So it's not just highways, it's other alternatives to transportation, I think is really key in a challenge that we have. And also talent pool. Talent pool is huge. We need to expand post-secondary for what we need. The healthcare crisis is one of them. Why don't we have pre-med at Algoma University? But there is a plan to support public education within our platform. So if we are supporting our high school students, they will stay here, they'll do post-secondary, and we're not cutting public education like the Conservatives did. They cut almost $1,600 per student in our public education system. So we need that transportation piece, and we need to nurture and grow our talent pool.
Okay. So tell me, what is your party's plan for establishing a formula-based funding approach and introducing new revenue tools to help northern municipalities deliver long-term infrastructure projects?
So that's in the Northern platform as well. We want to upload the back costs that were unfairly downloaded onto municipal taxpayers. We're seeing that. I see that at council. People are very confused. You know, even just with EMS services getting downloaded to the municipality, that certainly has created some issues in terms of budgeting. Put an end to private highway maintenance contracts. You know, that I think we can have a revenue model through there, because it's not the highway that we will take care of that as a province, and that will help Northern Ontario. And widen Highway 11 and 17 and 69 to 4 lanes. I did that Highway 69 almost once a week when my father was ill in Wasaga. It was terrifying. And you know, we need to, for funding, we need to have those infrastructure projects in, because when you build highways, it employs workers, it gets them working, and that is all northern driven.
Okay. If elected, how will you ensure Sault Ste. Marie is effectively represented at Queen's Park and have a strong voice in provincial decision making?
Certainly, I am the only candidate with a specific plan for the North. In my 6 years on City Council, I've attended many delegations across multiple ministries. Just last year in August at the Association of Municipalities of Ontario in Ottawa, I attended 13 delegations in 2 days, ranging from everything from our healthcare crisis, addiction, saving the YMCA, policing, housing, 13 delegations in 2 days, representing the city, talking to ministers, talking to folks that have the funds to help us. So I think in terms of what can I do at Queen's Park, I'm already doing this work. I'm just doing this work on a municipal council level. I can take all of that expertise and experience and knowledge and bring it to the community at Queen's Park.
Okay then. And the last question, what opportunities do you see for Sault Ste. Marie's growth, both economically and socially, and how can our business community contribute to that growth?
I think there's two very important sort of areas that we can expand and explore that hit all of those things. Number one is our agricultural industry. We're worried about tariffs. We want grown in Ontario. We're worried about food security. We're seeing a bubbling of food and agricultural-led industries that are happening right here in Sault Ste. Marie. Bloom Kombucha, you know, Valleyfield Farms, Pinocchio Hills, the Bread Hag, Unknown Legends Bakery. So we need to be able to promote and fund and have startups. All of these are self-starters. There has been some funding with Pinocchio, but not very much. So, you know, it hits all those things. It hits food security. It hits that we're feeding and growing for our own. It's creating business and opportunities and new industries that can, you know, really look at Harvest Algoma, Meals by Harvest. You know, that I think is such a key piece. The other is really growing and nurturing partnerships with our Indigenous neighbors. So I've been doing that as City Council. I'm part of the Community Economic Development Initiative with the city and Garden River First Nation. And the first thing that I identified in that committee was there's no public transportation between Garden River and Sault Ste. Marie. So it all ties in together, right? Mm-hmm. So we can like have such a beautiful industry. Prime example, Gathering of the Rapids powwow. I was there for 2 days this past weekend. The vendors, the artisans, the economic growth of just that powwow here in Sault Ste. Marie was unimaginable. So rather than trying to do everything for everyone, let's take a look at like the opportunities that we have here that are already bubbling, like our agricultural and our food businesses and our Indigenous partnerships. I think those are two really key pieces of growing our economic development within Sault Ste. Marie.
Excellent. Well, thanks for all those responses. Feel free to take a few minutes for any closing remarks. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Bob.
No problem.
Appreciate it. I think number one, and this has been pointed out to me by mentors and people that I work with, and I really appreciate it, is I'm a listener. You know, you have to listen. You can't just give somebody, this is what we're going to do because I think this is a great idea. You have to listen. I work towards solutions. I'm a very solution-based person, and I have a proven record in my community helping. I helped restructure Big Brothers Big Sisters after they got the big catch, the ACE funding, and they needed a lot of help. I founded a sustainable social enterprise, and I initiated the municipal autism strategy, and we were the first municipality to have one before we had a national strategy. I grew up here. I raised my family here. I'm at stake in this community. You know, I'm from the Soo, I'm for the Soo, and I'm honored and privileged to be able to go through this experience. And I plan to be the next MPP at Queen's Park for Sault Ste. Marie.
Excellent. Well, thank you. On behalf of the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce, thank you very much, Lisa. We appreciate you taking part in this. And we also wish not only Lisa, but all the candidates all the best in the remaining campaign period. Lastly, we'd also like to thank anybody who watched, any viewers we have out there. We hope we've helped better inform you to some degree. Ontario, like Lisa has said, faces significant challenges in the coming years, but there's a lot of opportunities that there exist as well. So we encourage everyone to make sure you get out, exercise your right to vote, and vote on February 27th. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bob.